Paulette, now back to you. How would you just tell the people about your story and, you know, where it all started and, you know, to a point where you wrote a book. Paulette, by the way, she's an author of Behind the Smile, and that's her book over there. And it was published early this year in February. And it's all about her story. It's not fictional. You know, she went very bare with it. So she's telling it all, you know, the good and the not so good, you know, the bad and not so bad. So it's all in there. And today she's just going to tell us a little bit about, you know, what the book is all about, and also, you know, in person what she experienced. And then we will be asking her questions as we go. Okay, Paulette, can you just briefly tell us your story? That is so
Hello.
Interesting.
Hello, my name is Paulette, Paulette Monteiro, yes. My story, as you said, is a story of trauma, quite, like you said, you know, there's bad, there's worse, there's, you know, just that, but there's a story of trauma, starting from childhood, where I didn't really grow up with my parents, so I grew up mostly in foster care. Beginning of my life, I was raised by my grandmother in Congo. And when I came back, so I was born in France, but then I went to Congo at the age of 5, if I recall it correctly. Stayed in Congo for almost, I think, 3 years, raised by my grandma and, you know, the family members who were back in Congo. Then our mother came to pick us up again, you know, from where she had left us. Then the life in France was lived in foster care mostly, with my big sister and myself, being, you know, being with foster parents or in foster homes with other children. We would see our mothers every other weekend and sometimes during holidays. And then just the recollection of this childhood is, you know, from being here, being there.
Yeah.
We were not always in the same cities, but we were always in foster cares. Wherever we found ourselves, we will end up in foster care. Then during my teenage years, sadly, I lost my mum when I was 13. She had just recently managed to take us out of that care system. And, you know, I think it's maybe 7-8 months after she passed away. This has kind of left a void. I mean, living in the childhood of, you know, being in foster care was already a trauma for me. But having now lived with my mom for such a short period of time, left a bigger void. And then from there we were separated. I had 2 younger sisters at the time and my big sister, but we were then separated 2 by 2, living with family members. For me, it was very hard because I had then, for the first time, being separated from my big sister, who had always been there for me, and now we found ourselves being separated. From there, for me, I think I spiraled down into depression. I was anorexic for some time, and then I attempted suicide a couple of times as well. It was very hard. It was just very, very hard in my teenage years to even find a place in the world for me. I just didn't think that I belonged anywhere. After that, you know, I had met my dad after my mom passed away. He wanted me to live with him, but this, for me and my family, we just felt it wasn't suitable because I didn't really know him, and they didn't really know him either. So we just decided to build a relationship, a distance relationship, me and him. I mean, it worked as far as, you know, calling each other, writing letters. It did work. I did visit him. He used to live in London. Well, he lives in London. So I did visit him holidays, you know, 1 week, 2 weeks, and back to France. It did work. And at the age of 17, my aunt, after an event, kicked me out of the house. So I found myself back into the care system because I was a minor at the time, yes. So I found myself back into the care system. Again, this was quite traumatic for me because the reason why she had kicked me out, I couldn't understand it, but she had made her mind up that she didn't want me in our house anymore. So I went into the care system again. And at the age of 19, you know, by the time I was 18, sorry, I moved into a flat, into a permanent flat, and you know, graduated and everything from I would say what we call high school, in France. So and then I couldn't get into a uni. I was on waiting list, but and I thought to myself, why not go live with my dad? So I contacted my dad. He was super excited anyway. So I came to live in London. That's how I ended up in London in 2002. It wasn't the greatest time. I mean, from coming here on holiday to meeting my other siblings, which my dad had remarried, so I had other siblings. From meeting them and now living with them and living with my dad, it was very different. I didn't quite get to build a good relationship with my dad because I thought at that time that I had already done a life of, you know, I knew kind of, I was an adult then, a young adult. And having him like a hawk behind me all the time. I mean, for him, I remained that little girl he had left, you know, from, you know, a very young age. So it was constantly, you know, it was overbearing. It was overwhelming to have him all the time behind me, asking me where I'm going, what I'm doing, wanting a hug, wanting time with me, which for me, I wasn't used to. And I struggled with it. I must admit, I really struggled with it. And I think he struggled with the way I reacted to him, which for him was obviously rejection. And for me, it was really like, I want my space. I'm not used to it. I don't want it. So I ended up leaving the house and moving into a hostel. So I lived in a hostel for some time where you know, I started working as well, my first job. And I had a friend who you know, it was a male friend. It was actually one of my first friends in London. And sadly, an event happened and, you know, this person who I trusted ended up raping me. And at the time, I was a virgin. And it was, for me, again, it was a traumatic event, you know, to have trusted this person and for that person to do that to me. It was very hard. It was very hard to take. I did make the point to this guy that we had to be in a relationship because for me, I couldn't envision having sex with someone and not be in a relationship with him. So we stayed in a relationship, but again, the basics of that relationship was wrong, so it didn't work out. And then we separated. After that, for me, you know, every time I had a relationship, for me, sex meant nothing. So I would just, you know, whatever. And I ended up being pregnant with my first child. Again, it's a traumatic event. I didn't expect to be pregnant. All I did was go to the GP. And then the GP telling me I'm pregnant. So I remember that day I was crying as if my life was over. And then I called this person I was obviously in a relationship with. And he just, at first, he told me to have an abortion without even thinking. And then when I said that this was not something that I would even consider, he just started denying the pregnancy. And we just separated from there. A lot of things unraveled behind the scenes, but that is all in the book. But then obviously, I then went through my pregnancy on my own. And my dad had turned his back on me because of the fact that I was pregnant and obviously being by myself. So then I had my baby. Obviously, I'm grateful to have been able to carry life and the life, you know, was manifested now. I had a child. Then when my daughter was about 3 years old, I got into a relationship, which I talk at length in my book. The relationship was quite abusive. I wouldn't say straight from the start, but a couple of months after being in the relationship with this guy, the relationship deteriorated. I went through physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse. I mean, on the spectrum of abuse, I've been through all of them, even as far as sexual abuse, because some people don't believe that you can be raped by your partner, but I've been through that. So I talk about it at length in my book. I was broken. I have to admit, I was broken, and all the decisions I was making from a young adult point of view, it was from a broken place.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of pick myself up. I was, well, I am a Christian. At that time, I called myself a Christian, but I don't think I was actually living the Christ life that, you know, I should have been living. But then towards the end of that relationship, I think I actually emotionally detached myself from this person a year before voicing it out. So I wasn't there anymore. I had decided that, okay, I want to end this relationship, but I want to be strong enough to not go back to it. So I had to really take my time, and the abuse continued during that time anyway. But I had to really build myself. So what I did is I started talking a little bit here and there, dropping hints to people who knew me. But I don't think anyone actually understood what I was talking about. I wanted help, but I didn't want to expose myself too much, if that makes sense. But in the end, I think the last time he put his hands on me, I think I just had enough. So I packed my children and myself, because at that time I had a child with this person. I packed my children and went to my parents. And then I just offloaded there, and I think they were shocked because I had been in the relationship with this person for nearly 6 years, and they didn't know
that was happening.
So I think they were my stepmom was just looking at me, and I think she was thinking, are you telling me what you're telling me, or are you making it up? So she was very shocked. But then obviously having my daughter was at the time, she was at an age where she understood, so she had seen some of the abuse. She could, you know,
tell.
She could testify that this is actually, yes, mommy is telling the truth. So I separated from this person. It was very hard because he didn't want to let go, and at some point I thought to myself, I might as well be with this person. So I was very hesitant, though I had made up my mind. I thought maybe, you know, as people say, better the devil you know. So I thought to myself, am I making the right thing? At least I know with this person what to expect. So fearfully, I was just asking myself questions, and I said, no, you know what? I have a boy and I have a girl. And I said to myself, do I really want my children growing up and thinking that this is love and this is how a relationship should look like? So for the sake of my children, that's where I took a stand, and I said, no more. It's not going to happen anymore. And I started then my journey of healing. It took time. Then I just started a journey of healing through books, through prayer, mostly prayer, and then just being able to open up to certain people really helped me seek that not only to break the soul tie, but to move past the desire even of being in a relationship, you know, that would not work for me. So. Not just for me, but for me and my children. So I just sought God and really held on to God at that time, because I could feel myself sinking into depression. I could feel myself wanting to run back to the person, and I just had to really be strong in what I desired and what I should aspire for my children to see, and just for myself. I mean, they need to see their mom being loved the right way, and I do deserve to be loved the right way. So why should I lower myself to being abused, constantly abused? So that's it. So I just God has been a good help in stepping out of that.
So a lot of your help came from the fact that you were a Christian. Would you say that?
Yes.
Did you get help from secular? Like secular counseling, or psychiatrist?
So during that relationship, at some point I attended counseling by myself, and we tried couple counseling. Counseling by myself, to be honest, I didn't find it a great help. I just remember the counselor just sitting there. And I mean, maybe it was me, but anyway, I do remember just the counselor sitting there and just asking me questions. And I was like, well, you're not really helping me. You're not giving me tips to help me. You're just wanting me skills. Yes, you're just wanting me to tell you, but then what exactly are you doing? So I had a few sessions, and I just thought it's not working for me.
Yeah.
Couple counseling, we attended the first session together. Then he just didn't want to attend, so I just had to leave it.
terminate.
Yes.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's Paulette, and a lot of the story. I mean, she just went very, very brief. A lot is in the book, so she will tell us in the end how people can access the book and where they can get it from. I read it myself, and yeah, it's really impacting. And you know, to see her like this today, if you read the book and look at her today, you wouldn't even think it's the same person. But you know, yeah, you can heal. You really can heal. And the good thing about it is that you can heal, and then you can be a help to those who are still in the situation.